Hello and welcome back to the Cricket Nerds podcast. It is me and Zach today, and you're in for a treat because we have a mega episode to cover all of the games from this weekend. Sorry we couldn't do one yesterday. James is on holiday in France with very bad internet, and me and Zach couldn't get around to it yesterday. But we're going to make it up to you all and do it today. We're going to answer first of all our comment of the day, which actually came on Friday's episode, which was from Human, who said, "Did I miss something, boys? No content today. Morning doesn't feel like morning." I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry that happened to you this morning, Human, but we'll make it up to you. Today, we've got a mega episode where we are talking about Punjab Kings versus Rajasthan Royals, Lucknow Super Giants versus KKR, RCB versus Sunrisers, and CSK versus DC. Now, clearly, me and Zach are going to be very pleased because of the results this weekend. But yeah, Zach, how are you? What's going on?
I'm good. I agree with Human, right? Morning doesn't feel like morning when you don't have a Cricket Nerds episode to wake up to. So we are very sorry about that. But today's going to be awesome. We are both very happy about the games, the results that have happened today, being Sunday's double header. But let's just get right into this double header, kicking it off with Punjab Kings versus the Rajasthan Royals, which for the weekend was the closest result. All the other results were walkovers by one team. Whereas this one, it got a bit closer. It got to the last two balls remaining. But the Rajasthan Royals didn't really seem too phased by the chase of 189 for 5. And that was down to Yashavi Jaiswal, who he's a very exciting young player. And when you looked at him in that top 4 for Rajasthan Royals, along with Jos Buttler, Sanju Samson, Devdutt Padikkal, and with Shimron Hetmyer to back it up, you're thinking this lad, it's not going to take long for him in that lineup to start firing. And yesterday, we saw that he looked in great touch. He looked like he could be a very good run scorer for them in the future. So Rajasthan need to hold on to him, because with the exciting pair of him and Devdutt Padikkal, along with the experience of Sanju Samson and Jos Buttler, man, that's a top 4. And I'm not surprised they managed to chase off the 190 for 4. Shame for James, really, to see his team lose again, because Punjab really needed to get that win to kind of help their chances of getting into the top 4. They can still do it. It's still possible, but it's just going to be a harder task now. And no one other than Johnny Bairstow coming back into form, which is a little bit of a positive, and Jitesh Sharma scoring a few runs at the end. No one really contributed for Punjab. It was kind of everyone chipped in, which we see from them regularly, but they almost need that bigger contribution to push them to those really top scores that we know that they can get, those 200s, 220s even, that they're capable of. So a good game, but I think it was Rajasthan just looked so comfortable in their run chase. What did you think, Benj?
Yeah, there were two things actually that stood out to me for the Rajasthan game. First of all was, again, we have said on this podcast, or we said, I think, in our last video, James was like, it's time to drop Johnny Bairstow. And every time we say that, they do really well the next game. So I think it was right for Punjab to, give Bairstow another chance, because Anne's in his preferred spot of opening the order, where he's played fantastically in the IPL for years and years and years. So I think that was a right move from Punjab to keep going with that 11 that they've got. And I think if they keep to that formula, they will eventually get a win. Like, Punjab have got, I think, 3 games to go.
Yeah.
So they're having 3 games to go. If they, say, win 2 out of those 3 games, it still stands them in good chance. And it will probably come down to net run rate. And they were ably helped out today by Chennai, by beating Delhi, because they're the ones fighting for that spot. So there's going to be lots of maths that I'm sure we'll get into in the next couple of weeks about how each team qualify, which is going to be really exciting. And then my other point was I was really impressed with Jaiswal, because coming back from being dropped by Rajasthan, I thought it was quite harsh the way that he got dropped. But him coming back in and looking really good. It's a shame that Padikkal's back down to number 4, because again, that's not really his preferred spot. But I think just that need that that Rajasthan had to play Jaiswal in yeah, was really important. Yeah, so I think that's my main takeaway from Rajasthan. If we look at the other game from this weekend, I mean, it wasn't a very interesting game. Well, it is if you're a Lucknow Super Giants fan. So, I mean, Lucknow got put into bat, as you'd expect when a team wins the toss, and they scored what seemed like a subpar 176 for 7. KKR Hall ran out without facing a ball, which you always hate to see. Yeah, that was
I think he's in my
unlucky.
fantasy team as well.
Yeah, it was definitely unlucky because it was a pretty bad call, I think. But yeah, that wasn't great. So yeah, not great from Lucknow there. Definitely not great from Quinton de Kock to run out your captain. But having said that, scoring a 50 does something to bring it back. And then I think really they all of the Lucknow batters just contributed. They all scored 10s, 15s, which and 20s, and Huda came in with a 40, which was really important to get them up to a somewhat reasonable total. From a KKR bowling perspective, Sunil Narayan just looks fantastic again, taking a wicket and only going for 5s. And then KKR's chase, I mean, it was an absolute train wreck. Like Avesh
Andre
Khan,
Russell was the only one who did anything.
Andre Russell, but Avesh Khan and Jason Holder just absolutely smashed their way through that side. Like the start of the innings, it was just such a slow start, and then I mean there was a wicket in the first over, and then after that they just took regular wickets, and then Jason Holder takes 2 in 2. Avesh Khan takes 2 in an over as well, and it really just really crippled KKR on that chase, and they ended up just being bowled out for 101 off 14 overs. So it was really poor from KKR, who have looked really good in this tournament. It's like, what did you think about it, and particularly around like Venkatesh Iyer being dropped, because I think that was real poor form from KKR as well.
Well, Venkatesh Iyer being dropped is never. You don't want to see it when he's the one player who you thought from KKR he would do really well this season, and he's done a few good things. I wouldn't say he deserved to get dropped, especially when his replacement in Babak Indrajit isn't the best replacement. You'd think you'd back Venkatesh Iyer to perform better than him, and also potentially better than Nishish Rana, who's been in very bad form all season. I think he's had one good game in the previous game that KKR played, and he only managed 2 off 11. But all the credit really goes to Lucknow Super Giants, who are becoming the powerhouse that we thought they would at the start of the tournament. They've got the batters at top. Look, KKR Rahul didn't need to do anything. He got 0 off 0. The rest of them still batted well. Quinton de Kock, a very quick 50. Deepak Huda has made that number 3 slot his own and is performing really well for them. He's consistently scoring quickly at the top of the innings. Krunal Pandya, we know what he can do. Ayush Badoni looks really good. Marcus Stoinis to finish it off. So they're building a really good side, and their bowling, that's what stands out to me, because yes, they've got Avesh Khan. Yes, they've got Chamira, who bowls very quickly. Yes, they've got Jason Holder, who is a reliable death bowler, and Ravi Bishnoi, who's a very exciting spinner. But I think the best thing for me with Lucknow Super Giants is Mohsin Khan. He is such a good bowler. He doesn't give anything away. He's a perfect T20 bowler. He picks up early wickets and he goes at hardly anything. And I think we didn't know who he was at the start of the tournament. And that's why we love the IPL. It reveals these players who come out from nowhere and look really good. So all in all, Lucknow Super Giants deserved the win. Kolkata Knight Riders played poorly as well, which is why they got absolutely hammered, and it didn't help their net run rate at all.
No, it's really hammered that, hasn't it? Yeah, it's really hammered that, and actually, it's meant that today, after the Chennai result, they've actually gone above KKR in the table. I know we plan to do hero and villain of the weekend, but do you reckon we should do a hero and villain of each day? Because there are quite a lot of villains from Saturday.
Yeah, but we're going to limit it. I'm going to test Ben just to see if we can limit it to one hero and one villain.
Okay.
So let's see if we can do that.
So my hero of Saturday was Jaiswal for coming back from coming back from being dropped and really playing a match-winning knock for Rajdam. And my villain of the weekend, just all of KKR. They were just so bad. I can't pick anything. Just KKR were just trash. KKR, that's my villain. Just KKR. They were so trash.
All of KKR. Wow. My hero is going to be Mohsin Khan for not allowing KKR into the game at all. He didn't give them a sniff. And in terms of villain, I'm going to go to the other game, and I'm going to say Punjab Kings bowling lineup. Their pace bowlers in particular, except for Arshdeep Singh, Kagita Rabada and Sandeep Sharma, who we've seen be really reliable all tournament. They just were way too expensive. They just didn't bowl accurately enough, and they paid the price for that. So yeah, Punjab Kings bowling, definitely a villain. So cool. Yeah, there we go.
That was really hard to keep it to one hero and one villain. I feel like it's impossible for me to do that. Right, okay. Let's move on to the main event, though, which is obviously today's games. Now, Zach and I are both pleased because both of our teams won. Zach, I know you've been itching to talk about it. Talk us through Royal Challengers electing to bat first.
I mean, well, we're playing in green. And if you don't know, it's the Go Green initiative. It's the idea of living more sustainably. So it's a great cause that we support by doing that. And our record when we play in green is not great. There's been one no result. We've been doing it since 2011. There's been one no result. We've won twice and we've lost the rest. So to win for the third time in those many games, it was a great feeling. And it was a really good, complete team performance. We're starting to see the Royal Challengers team from this first half of the tournament that were looking unstoppable, and we're starting to see that again. And they just played outstandingly well, with the exception of Virat Kohli, who got another first baller. I'm not even going to dwell on Virat Kohli. It's another video entirely, so I'm not going to bother with that. But I want to focus on the positives, being Faf du Plessis leading from the front, scoring a match-winning 73. And the players who backed him up, Dinesh Karthik finishing at the end in the way that he's done all throughout the tournament was great to see. And then we backed it up with the bowling as well. Other than Shahbaz Ahmed, everyone went under 10 and over. Josh Hazlewood, he's so consistent, it's ridiculous. And Wanindu Hasaranga, 5 for 18 in 4 overs, deserved man of the match. It was great to watch. As an RCB fan, these are the performances that we've been longing for years, and it's starting to come together. So this big smile on my face is genuine because I'm so happy, and I just want us to keep going. Let's keep on going on this with this momentum all the way. Come on, boys.
Yeah, it's great. I think RCB have put themselves in a real good chance of qualifying now for the playoffs. With that win, I mean, RCB, I think they've got the fewest games. I think they've only got 2 games left. So that's the only thing that could play against RCB, is they have the fewest games in the tournament left. And I think one of them is Gujarat, so who look like a very strong side and have been all the way through, although they are going through a bit of a lull, losing to Mumbai last week. So yeah, it's interesting with RCB, but yeah, they are looking like they are, getting into a decent position. For me, I was really impressed with Dinesh Karthik. I think he's come back into a bit of form, and he's been allowed to come in at the right time and play his natural game, which I think is just huge for Dinesh Karthik. Like, he needs to play his natural game to do his best. And I think Sunrisers just really got outfoxed today by Hasaranga, who bowled fantastically. I mean, if we're looking for a standout from Sunrisers, it has to probably be Raj Tripathi, who's going through a real good spell of form, who managed to look okay, I suppose, even though they had a good form. I mean, Kane Williamson getting run out without facing a ball, and Abhishek Sharma as well, not getting off the mark. It was pretty poor from those two. And then, yeah, the rest of them went on. But then I think it was just good fielding and good bowling at the start from RCB. But that brings us on to the real main event, which is Chennai Super Kings absolutely dominating the Delhi Capitals. And to sum up the game in the perfect way, MS Dhoni, I feel like we played a perfect game today. I think that is the case with Chennai. Big news, Jadeja was dropped in favour of Shivam Dube.
Let us know what you think about that.
Yeah,
please.
Put that in the comments. Like, he's not being himself, but I just think dropping Jadeja, man, that's a big statement, isn't it? And Dhoni's messing around with that order, like, which I quite like to see. The fact that like Dhoni played his captaincy, they played very fluid. So Gaikwad and Conway opened, and they got an 100-run partnership again. So that's I think the second time this season now, and again in the second half of the season that Chennai have had a 100-run opening partnership, especially since Conway's come back into the side. So that's really good to see. Both of them just looked in real good nick, and then sending out Shivam Dube, who can again just smack it around for a bit and striking at 160. Like, all players who came in after number 3, with the exception of Raidu, who was a bit unlucky, and Robin Uttapur, were striking at above 150. And like, it was clear the instructions were just right. This is a good base. We've got batting to come. Let's just swing. Let's just go out and swing. And like, it paid off for Dhoni, who hit 21 off 8. It paid off for Moeen, who hit 9 off 4. And it didn't so much pay off for Uttapur and Raidu, who both, didn't do particularly well, but we won't dwell on that for too much. And then the Chennai bowling was just fantastic. I'm not sure if it was good Chennai bowling or poor DC batting. I've not quite made my mind up on that yet, but I think wickets were shared between all of them. And they just managed to take those 10 wickets within like 17 overs. And it was just a real good performance with bat and ball, and a good all-round performance. Every single player contributed in one way or the other. Yeah. Any comments, Zach?
Well, I think it's due to Dhoni's captaincy, really. He brings the best out of his players, doesn't he? And I think that's what we saw is, like you said, everyone chipped in, everyone did their part. It was a team performance. It wasn't one or two players standing out. Everyone did their bit. And the main thing with Chennai is Devon Conway. He's a really good batsman. He looks good in all forms of the game, whether it's test matches or 2020s. And today he proved how good he is as a ball striker. We've seen him play long innings in test match cricket, and yet he's also able to adapt in the 2020 matches and score with a strike rate of over 160, 170. And it's really good batting. He's a really good player for them. And he fits the mold of Chennai. He does. He'll be a good one to keep. A quick thing about Delhi, though, is that their bowling, Shardul Thakur hasn't been that good of late, and that's a real issue for them, I think, because when he's bowling well, then that kind of sorts out the power play bowling and the death bowling. But the fact that he's struggling to deliver, he only got bowled 3 overs today. The fact that he's struggling to deliver is really having an effect on that team, because he should be leading that bowling attack. And they've also got Anrik Nortje, who's coming back from injury. Although he's taking wickets, which is really good, he's also leaking runs. And so their 2 main pacers aren't doing the job that they need to do to keep teams within 180, 170 on good batting tracks, which is really hindering them. And then in terms of their batting, I think what they're failing with, and I don't know if you want to comment on this, but Rishabh Pant, he's not been making those match-winning scores. When we first saw Rishabh Pant come onto the scene, he was scoring 50s and 60s and winning games for his team, whereas now he's scoring 20s that look good and he's scoring them quickly, but then he gets out and it's like, no, you're the captain. You got to make those mature decisions to stay in till the end and guide your team home, like a Dhoni, really.
I agree. Like Pant's definitely, he's been trying to play the big innings, and like he's getting in and getting 20 and then being silly. Like today, he chopped on. Like, there's no excuse to do that. Like, you just, unless it's a really good ball that you're facing, like, you just don't do it. And like Ali was building pressure. And I think actually the numbers are a bit skewed today. And I think one thing I want to highlight is the amount of pressure that Chennai made. So if you just add up the number of dot balls each innings, Delhi bowled 33 out of 120 balls that were dots. Chennai bowled 56. That's like a lot more dot balls. That's like 20. That's a big number of dots extra. That's nearly half of the balls of that innings were dots. And Moeen, from his 4-over spell, so 24 balls, bowled 16 dot balls. Like that's a good spell. That's like that is how you build pressure and take wickets, and that's how he took that. And I think that was probably the big difference today between the two sides. Like Delhi knew that they were facing a big total, and when we've seen a trend that when Delhi are facing a big total, they rush it and they don't play the innings correctly, and because of that, they end up losing the game. So I think a bit of a lack of concentration today, I think, for Delhi.
Do you think that's a symptom of how Delhi's players are? Like Rishabh Pant and Rovman Powell in that middle order. When you're at that situation, you want to rotate the strike. And they didn't have Malik Yadav playing. And he's really quite good at rotating the strike. And that's what you need. When you're playing these spinners like Moeen Ali, if they're bowling really well, you still want to knock them around for ones and twos. Like when we see Rashid Khan going at 6 and over, he's going at 6 and over because teams are scoring singles off him. They're not just hanging on the back foot and defending. And I think that's something that their batsmen are failing to do at the moment. They're so eager to hit the fours and the sixes. They're not taking their time to score those ones and twos. And I think that's what Delhi need to work on. Yeah,
I agree. I think that, and again, it comes down to patience. Because if you have those 56 not balls, if another 20, if 20 of those dots are actually converted into ones, where you're not trying to swing for the rafters, I mean, that's instantly another 20 runs on your total, which just alleviates that pressure. So that was definitely big for me. I think one other thing that affects Delhi, just as a closing comment, is that they're very reliant on their top order performing. And I think the fact that Prithvi Shaw is now injured and out for a bit, that's really going to affect them because he is one of the most aggressive starters in the IPL. And they are very reliant on him and David Warner coming out and performing. Okay, Zach, who is your hero and who is your villain of Sunday? I suspect our heroes will come from different games.
Well, actually, I'm going to give my hero to Moeen Ali because the man has done great things for Chennai since coming back into the team, and he looks very impressive with the ball. We know how dangerous he can be with the bat. I don't think he's really we've seen his best with the bat this tournament. So with that to come, it's exciting for him. So I'm going to steal that hero from Chennai. But yeah, also I think Faf du Plessis gets a worthy mention for playing that captain's knock and for doing a really good job. Villain wise, I'm going to give it to Virat Kohli because getting another golden duck, it's like, what are you doing? Right? You should be in that team scoring these match-winning innings like Faf du Plessis. Come on, Kohli. We're backing you. So all the rest of the team's peaking. It's now your time to join in. Score a 40-ball 70. Why not? Come on. There we go. That's me.
I'm actually going to give my hero to Devon Conway. I'm going to be very... very selfish. It was deserved, and I think Conway has managed to find his feet now. He's had enough games to show that actually, I can do what Faf du Plessis did, and I can do it better. Discuss that in the comments. And then you've taken my main villain of Kohli. So I'm actually going to give it again to Kane Williamson. And I've just got an interesting point, and this probably is I'm actually going to ask a question to our commenters. Now, in another side, if there was a player that had repeatedly not performed, but doesn't have the reputation of Virat Kohli and Kane Williamson, that have been dropped. There's no question about it. Do you think it's time for RCB and Sunrisers to give it a rest to Kane, give Kohli a rest? I know it will cause uproar, but just not play him for a game and see if something can go along the other way, and if they can suddenly turn it around and perform. I'm going to ask that in the comments.
Their match aggregate is 0 runs, 1 ball faced, and 1 catch. And that's it.
It's poor, isn't it?
Oh, no, so 2 catches. Cody got a catch.
But yeah, they're my villains. I'm going to say, yeah, should they still be playing? Comment below. Can you drop Kohli? And I think for RCB, they should do. But yeah, let's go. But that's probably going to mean that next game, Kohli scores 100. Like, that's how this works.
Hopefully, yeah. Yeah, come on.
So there we go. Right, we're going to briefly go over to Cricketers' questions. So we're going to roll the intro. Our Cricketers' questions today comes from Owen T, who asks, if you three were managing an IPL team, how would you manage succession planning, especially when you have some big names like maybe Pollard or Callis or Gale? Do you wait for them all to retire, or do you proactively move them on?
It is a great question, and we are happy to answer this. Now, it says if you three. Now, James isn't here, so he might have something to say on this, but there's only 2 of us today, but we'll give it our best shot. But yes, people like Pollard, Callis, Gale, these big names who we've kind of just talked about it with Kohli and Williamson, haven't we? That they've got this reputation behind them, and if they start to perform badly, what is the situation? Do we think actually no, it's your time to move on? We're going to give it to some younger players. Now, I think that's what the question's getting at, and personally, I would just drop them. And it's easy for me to say, isn't it? It's easy for me to say not being part of the team environment and not seeing the influence that these guys have, but in my opinion, I think you should move them on as sooner rather than later, because having them in your team can actually damage the reputation. Now, saying this, you then have a player like Dhoni, who, yes, he might not be as good as he was 5 years ago, 6 years ago, but he's still able to do a job. So there's pros and cons either way. I would say, yes, drop them, because then you can allow your younger players, your arguably better players, to play their games and win you games. But then on the other side, they've got the experience that when it's a bad situation, they can sometimes deliver, even if they're not performing consistently. So it's a really hard one.
Then do you drop them from playing and add them as coaching staff? I think that's where you go with that. So yes, my answer is quite simple. It's there's 2 options, and it depends on which way you look at it. So if I am a director of cricket and I'm a head coach and I'm wanting to get the best performance for my side, then yeah, I drop them. I add them to my coaching staff to still give that experience, pay them a big salary still, but they aren't playing because they're younger, there are better players who can come through. But as we know, and it's quite sad, but cricket is a business. And as an owner, these players sell tickets. Gale, Pollard, Callis, Bravo, Russell, Dhoni, they sell tickets, they sell merchandise, and that is why these players play way past their expiry date. It's as simple as that. Like, because cricket is now a business and they are money grabbers, and these players generate money, that is why they'll be in the team for way longer than they should. But like, the amount of this year of Dhoni 7 CSK shirts that will have been sold will probably have paid for Dhoni's salary. Like, it's ridiculous how much that goes around. So yeah, that's the reason why they stay in. If I'm going from a pure performance perspective, yeah, I drop them and I make use of their cricket heads as staff. Zach, do you have anything else just to follow up on that?
Yeah, I think sometimes succession planning can happen naturally. Like you see with the West Indies, Garfield Sobers, at the end of his career, he played a few matches with Viv Richards. And then at the end of Viv Richards' career, he played a few games with Brian Lara, right? And they had that natural succession going. And whereas if you take the England cricket team with Broad and Anderson, right, they're getting to the end of their careers and there isn't that next big name standing up. So sometimes that succession can happen naturally. But if it's not happening naturally, then you kind of have to stick with these players. So when it comes to the mega auction, you've seen teams like Chennai buy a load of older players and they get the nickname Dad's Army. But you also look at Chennai and you think, no, they bought Theekshana from Sri Lanka. They bought Moeen Ali, who isn't really near retirement in terms
Dubé.
of franchise cricket. They've got Shiva, Dubé. They've
Mukesh Chowdhury. I can carry on.
They've got these younger players as well to kind of hope that some of them will make an impact, so that it's not as bad when they drop these other players. So I think that there is merit in keeping these players because it allows you to move on, I guess. But at the same time, if it doesn't happen naturally, like with the England cricket team with their bowling, then that makes it difficult.
Bonjour. So my answer to this question is, I think with the franchise tournament, with the franchise team, it does come down to the fact that you want to win games. So I think eventually you have to move big players on, even though it's quite difficult to do so. And obviously they're the big names. I think eventually, if a different player is playing better, then you need to go for them. So there needs to be a succession plan there. So, for example, Dewald Brevis, he eventually needs to take over from Kyron Pollard, for example.
So thank you very much for that question. Interesting conversation that we've had on that.
So tomorrow's game is going to be between the Mumbai Indians and the Kolkata Knight Riders, both sitting bottom two spots on the table. So it's a bit of a wooden spoon contest between the two. My money is on Mumbai Indians, who are coming off of 2 victories in a row now. And Kolkata seem to not be doing great. What about you, Benj?
I would actually agree with that. I think Mumbai, if they get their mix right, I think they should give Pollard a rest and bring in Dewald Brevis and Tim David. But there we go. We'll see if that happens. If they do what they did against Gujarat, then they can win and do a bit more upset on the rest of the tournament. Cool. We'll end there. Thank you for that. Remember to subscribe, remember to like. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. If you're listening on podcast platforms, so Anchor FM, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many more. Follow us on our social media at Cricket Nerds Pod. We're going to do some content there soon. Maybe you're going to see some Village midweek T20 cricket this coming week, but we'll see. No promises. But aside from that, it's been a pleasure once again, and we'll see you tomorrow.